So if you watched the wiring video on my K10 when I did most of the interior wiring, you'll remember that I did run a few wires over to the ashtray area, and that's because I was gonna run a custom switch panel that I could mount 2 switches in, one for rock lights, one for 4-wheel drive low signal for the PCM. So here I have 2 switches. This one's rock lights, and this one is just a generic one I got off Amazon. I'll have to get a custom cover made that says 4-wheel drive low. So anyway, those will end up getting mounted into this. So the first thing I want to do is actually make a template for the panel for the size of the panel that I want. I'll make it out of paper and then I can transfer it over to this piece of plastic. This is obviously not the ashtray that will be going in the truck because I don't want to be test fitting on my freshly painted panel. This is just a spare one I had sitting around. So this one will be used for mock-up, and then it'll get mounted in the blue one once I have it finalized. So now, as you can see, I have this piece of paper. It's cut pretty close to the size that I want. I'll probably end up rounding the corners off, make it look a little bit better, but have a little bit of clearance in there, a little bit of clearance over on the edge, and then right tight up against the bottom. So the next thing I'm going to do is transfer this over to the plastic and then get it test fit in here. Now I have the piece roughly cut out. There'll be a little bit of final sanding that'll happen once I get it all finalized, but it's a decent size, fits in there pretty good. The next thing I'm going to figure out is how to mount this in there. Might end up doing a couple of really small screws in each of the corners, or I'll have to figure out something from the back. So I figured out the mounting situation, got it all marked out, and then I ended up cutting the holes for the switches off camera just because it was a little bit time consuming and quite tedious, honestly. So what I have planned on the bottom here, it'll just be mounted in with regular hardware, really small hardware. It'll sit something like that. Had to notch that just a little bit, make some room there. And then these are going all the way through, and there'll be a piece behind it to go behind this piece of steel. Kind of hard to explain until I do it, but you'll see once it's done. And then I'm just making a 90-degree angle bracket for this top hole here that'll go in behind and then get attached to that. So that's kind of the plan. Just working on this top bracket now, then once that's all done, I'll paint this all up, and once the paint's dry, I'll get it all mounted for good. So it's now the next day, overnight. Let this dry. I painted it flat black. Matches the switches pretty well. And I got it all mounted in here. The black hardware, the black switches, it all blends together and it looks pretty good. Obviously I'm missing cigarette lighter and the bass knob, but those will also be black. So it'll all blend in really well. And then if we go on the back, you can kind of see how I did this. So I had the 2 on the top, like I said, that went straight through. Then I kind of have a bracket like that and like that, holding it against it. And then I have a little bit of a L bracket there at the bottom because the middle was kind of flimsy when I just did the 4 corners. So it might not be the strongest setup, but there's not a whole lot of force being put on these switches. Like, they're super easy to push. You don't really need to be pushing super hard on anything, which is why I'm not really concerned about it being plastic. So the next thing, I'm probably gonna end up putting the cigarette lighter in here. And now here's how it looks with the cigarette lighter mounted in there. So So next thing I'm gonna do is probably mount this in the truck, and then I'll have to do the wiring for the cigarette lighter. I'll have to just put these ends on it. They're just bare wires coming to it. I'll have to do the wiring for the switches before this goes in. I have to put connectors on the end of them to plug into the back of this. Same with the cigarette lighter, and then I'll put the base remote in here once it's mounted in the truck. So we'll see how that looks. So after a little bit of fighting with the wires, I actually got this whole thing installed. Looks pretty good. It all matches really well. And then as soon as you pop this open, you get the nice switch panel, the cigarette lighter, and then the base knob is in here as well now. And they look really good, like I said before. Kind of goes well with the fuel switch as well. And then when you turn the key on, you get the blue words to light up. I don't have the switches with the lights in the top, but that's fine. I like the way those look. Keep in mind that's not staying. That will be turning into a four-wheel drive low switch, not zombie lights. Also thinking I'll probably get some sort of cover for this. Not really sure what. Either that or I'll just stick the factory cigarette lighter back in there. Not that it'll ever get used, just something to plug the hole. So that's gonna conclude it for today's install. I was hoping to maybe install a few rock lights, but that's probably gonna have to hold off till another video. So be sure to be subscribed to the channel if you wanna see what this thing will look like once it's all lit up underneath. Hopefully this gave you an idea if you have a truck like this and you wanna do some sort of switch panel in there. It's really not that hard. The hard part is really the mounting. That was the part that kinda tricked me a little bit, but got that all done. So yeah, if this helped you out in any way, be sure to comment, be sure to like the video, and then like I said before, subscribe to the channel because there's a lot more coming with the K10. So with that being said, we're gonna see you in the next one.